Thank you very much. The Turkish Human Rights Institute for organizing this event on international law and the human rights accountability. My topic on the subject is the UN report on human rights on Myanmar and what is the next step to achieve accountability and justice. Perhaps you are aware that United Nations Human Rights Committee has published a full report on 18th of September 2018. The Fact-Finding Commission of UN Human Rights has concluded that 3 major international crimes have been committed on the Rohingya people by the Myanmar Authority, such as genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. They have concluded the senior officials of the Myanmar army are responsible, and it was a planned genocide and crimes against humanity and war crimes according to international law. It is very clear, based on the evidence, spending a huge amount of time comprising experts of international law on many parts of the world. That is an impartial fact-finding report that crimes against humanity, war crimes have been committed on the Myanmar Rohingya people by the Myanmar army. But what we have seen and we have been seeing is that a system-wide failure of the UN human rights, United Nations, which had led these crimes to continue. What is that failure? The failure is that United Nations could not act promptly when the problem started. They could not start the campaign. They could not force on the Myanmar Authority to start investigation mainly because they did not have proper authority to investigate and collect the evidence of such a huge crimes named crimes against humanity, genocide. It has been very clear, according to the international media and the credible reports, at least 700,000 people or 800,000 people had fled to Bangladesh. A point to be noted is that Bangladesh is a member of the ICC. As those people who have fled to Bangladesh, they are the victims of crimes against humanity and war crimes and genocide. Bangladesh has got obligation, according to the international law, to prosecute for justice against those perpetrators. Another problem is that, towards accountability, Myanmar is not a party to the International Criminal Court. Only Bangladesh is the party. The fact of the matter is, Bangladesh could proceed alone to prosecute those. But the question is, will the judgment of Bangladeshi court can be imposed on the perpetrators? It may not likely that Bangladesh can really impose any kind of decision on the Myanmar Authority. But if the international community has agreed, has given the support and not to the Bangladesh government could go ahead. But the main problem has started and still remains in the international level, which is United Nations level. For crimes such as genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, there are 2 mechanisms available. Number 1 is International Criminal Court-led prosecution or International Criminal Court-led tribunal, or there can be a special tribunal supported by the United Nations or Security Council. But what we have been seeing, very unfortunately, Russia, China have been using their veto power when some movements have been done in the United Nations Security Council for a resolution to be passed against the Myanmar government to form a special tribunal. China and Russia has blocked that kind of resolution. Unfortunately, no resolution could have been passed to form or start a tribunal against the Myanmar government. So what is the way out? That is my main concern of this article. The way out is that the veto power of the members of the UN Security Council must be abolished for the sake of accountability and the justice. There should not be any veto power to the United Nations member. And the second suggestion would be that there could be alternative mechanism. What is that? That is that ignoring the United Nations special power, UN General Council, UN General Assembly could start a different mechanism on their own capacity, or UN Human Rights Council can start their own investigation and start their own the procedure to collect the evidence and start the proceeding against any perpetrators of the world. Otherwise, not only in Myanmar, what we have been seeing in Kashmir and many other countries, and also there are some countries, I should not mention the names, with respect, there are credible evidence by the independent human rights organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International that some particular regimes are committing crimes against humanity on their own citizens. So how those regimes, those perpetrators can be brought to the justice? If, as we have been seeing, United Nations Security Council is blocking any sort of resolution against those perpetrators. The way out is that abolition of veto power and UN General Council-led special tribunal or UN Human Rights Council-led special tribunal. That is the way out. Otherwise, we will continue to see that crimes against humanity, genocide, and war crimes are being committed not only on the Rohingya people, it will be continued to happen against the Kashmiri people and in some other countries by their own regime, by the regimes against their own people. So these are my suggestions and the recommendations that in conclusion, what I want to say is that current structure of trying, prosecuting, collecting evidence, and start the prosecution by the international criminal courts or special tribunal, such as special tribunal for Rwanda, is not enough. If we are serious, if we are committed, there are many intellectuals, many human rights representatives are here. We should raise our voice that there should be alternative mechanisms. There should be alternative ways bypassing the UN Security Council for the sake of transparency and the accountability towards justice and the human rights. If we do not raise our voice and concern, if we do not pressure, if we do not campaign to abolish the existing system, which is very weak, which is not serving the purpose of the masses. The current regime, unfortunately, is serving a particular group of people. If suppose crimes against humanity are being committed on Bosnian people, or Palestinian people, such as the members of the UN Security Council, America, who is the biggest friend of Israel, they will veto. So there is no prospect of any prosecution, let alone for justice against the perpetrators of Israel on the innocent Palestinian people. The current system must be abolished, and there should be special tribunal bypassing the ICC regime, bypassing the UN Security Council regime, and finally, my conclusion is that there should be UN General Council led and UN Human Council led resolution and mechanism to be adopted. It is then called on the UN Security Council, it was called, and which I support, that UN Security Council to refer the Myanmar to the International Criminal Court, or establish an ad hoc international criminal code, as well as implement targeted individual sections, travel bans, and asset freezes against senior military commanders and arms embargo on the country. Thank you very much.